Thankfully, I've had a really nice dry run on what I want to talk about today, and today is part 3 of Tales of a Car Dealer. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about 9/11 and how it affected the automotive market. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole story. There are many people that have told the September 11th thing a lot better than I have, so please feel free to look at them. What I want to focus on is what happened in the automotive market as well as the used car market specifically. Immediately, actually same day of 9/11, some places in the country, Chicago was one of them, decided to hike their gas prices up and start a artificial scare almost, where they jacked their price up to like $5 a gallon for fuel because they were afraid that a war in the Middle East would cause a fuel shortage. And obviously President Bush put a kibosh on that. However, prices have steadily gone up until, what was it, 2016, when they finally came down to almost reasonable prices. And in the wake of all of that, people got scared of spending money. And in that time, new car manufacturers obviously were realizing a massive drop in sales, and they wanted to encourage the purchase of new vehicles as well as get some more money into the economy. So what they did was they came out with 0% financing. Now, typically, if you had really good credit back in the day, you could get 0.9% financing. Once in a blue moon, they would do 0% financing as like a Christmas special or a 4th of July special or some other kind of program. But typically, you could only get 0.9% financing in general. 0% financing was only supposed to be for a few months, but it increased sales so much for these new car dealers and the manufacturers that it has stuck around for going on 20 years now. Because 0% financing was so popular, new car dealers were taking in a lot more trades. However, they also had a lot more customers that didn't qualify for 0% financing or that could qualify for a reasonable rate on used cars. So what they would do is they would keep all these trades that normally they used to sell at the auction, and then they would sell those to the used car customers, thus increasing sales for the dealership. And a lot of times these were trades towards new cars, so dealership manufacturer bonus. The way it affected us as a dealer was we were what was called a wholesale / public dealership. Our business model was we would go to a Midwest auction, typically Chicago or Indiana, and we would buy 50 to 60 cars, sometimes more, depending on how the week was looking, and we would ship them back to Minnesota. But before they ever set tires on our lot, we sent them to the auction, and we would sell them to other independent dealers. Because we were getting such a good deal in Chicago and Indiana, we were able to make almost the same profit selling to other dealers in Minnesota as we were selling directly off the lot. And if a vehicle went through the auction and didn't sell, we would bring it back to our lot and we would sell it off the lot, and we would get about the same money. Sometimes we would get a little bit more if it was a special item. We used to specialize in mid-90s Grand Prix GTPs and Camaros and Firebirds and K5 Blazers and all that stuff. Well, what happened was, because the new car dealers weren't sending their vehicles to the auction supply dried up quite a bit. So all of a sudden we were paying dang near what we were charging for vehicles at the auction, which limited how many we were able to buy. Then we'd have to bring them back and try to make more money, which meant we weren't taking them back to the auction, which meant we were keeping them and other dealerships weren't getting them. So we were actually starting to choke off the supply for the people that normally bought from us. So you can see how this cycle works around. And it used to be that we could get 3 to 5 year old cars, no problem, decent mileage, you know, anywhere from 36,000, which was the typical bumper to bumper warranty back then, up to 75,000 miles for very good prices. Now all of a sudden we're finding 5 to 7 year old vehicles with 75 to 100,000 miles that we have to sell. It wasn't hard, but it was annoying that we lost so much of our business. On top of which, because these new car dealers were keeping these used cars, they were requiring the services of the same lenders that we were using to finance these customers. We did both subprime and prime lending. So if you had good credit, you got a good rate. If you had bad credit, you paid 23.25%. It's the way it was. We just didn't let you borrow them. Well, these lenders started jumping ship because, and I can't blame them, look at it logically. You can keep working with an independent used dealership who just lost 60% of his inventory, business, and customers, Or you can go with Toyota, Honda, Ford, and Chevy, who have massive client lists, and they have a better ability to make more money off a vehicle than the independent used guys. Who would you side with? Or who would you prefer to work with? So all of a sudden, these lenders that used to only deal with independents no longer worked with independents, period. So all of a sudden, we're working with local banks, higher interest rates, credit unions. We signed up with a bunch of credit unions, and it made it much more difficult to sell cars. This whole thing sounds like it took forever to happen because it's been 20 years since 9/11, but no. The vast majority of these changes happened within months. Months of this happening, especially when Toyota, Honda, Nissan, Acura, all the foreign companies got in on the 0%, because credit to them, they actually stayed out of the 0% for a little while because they wanted to allow the American companies to encourage American growth. And, you know, mad respect to Toyota and all the companies for actually doing that. It's something I don't even know if you'd see today, but back in the day, they knew what was up. You know, you don't want to take a country that had just been attacked by a foreign terrorist and try to inject your marketing for a foreign vehicle. Also, this was 2001 when Kias were a joke, so obviously a Korean company wasn't going to do it. One benefit did come out of this for you guys, and that is customer service in the used car space astronomically got better. I mean, astronomically got better. Most of those guys I told you about in part 2, the cokehead, the guy with no driver's license, all these guys, the felons, stuff like that, a lot of them went away. They either went to new car dealerships and figured their stuff out and got themselves right, where they probably didn't do that well, or they just stayed in the business and dealt with what they could make. I, on the other hand, have always been a pretty adaptable person depending on who I'm speaking with, who I'm trying to work with, and it's something I've carried through my entire career. I carried through my entire career since I'm retired now, and I want to make that the focus of the next video because it's going to be a little bit of a tips and tricks on how you guys, if you're thinking about getting into the business, can actually make yourselves a little bit more successful. Also, I want to tell a couple of funny stories, and who knows, maybe I'll throw in the story on how I'm going to hell. So keep a lookout for that. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Maybe consider subscribing down below. Hit my Amazon affiliate link. Anything you buy will help the channel grow, and I would really appreciate it. You can click somewhere around here for another video, and yeah, that's about it. So until next time, I'll talk to you later.